Hey everyone, welcome back to Niko's Comic Book Hauls and Reviews on the Late Night Chat Network. And today I'll be discussing all of the collected comic book editions that I ended up hauling throughout the month of November 2021. I'll be discussing the things that I've read previously to picking these up and some of the things I actually ended up reading for the first time when I picked them up throughout the month of November. I'll be giving you quick reviews and thoughts on the things that I have read and also showing off the things that I've never read before that I'm looking forward to reading for the first time that I actually ended up grabbing this month as well. Mostly everything has come out throughout the month of November 2021, so they're all new releases that you can hopefully still get from your local comic book stores or retailer, whomever you end up buying these things from. A couple of things are older things that I just ended up picking up for the first time, maybe because there was a lighter week or something this past month. And as always, some of these things have been delayed and there has been pushbacks in some of the collected edition stuff that was supposed to come out this previous month in November and throughout December that has been pushed back to the new year due to shipping challenges right now, supply chain issues, things like that are some distributors are being affected right now by Marvel has pushed back a lot of big releases. So there are some things that were supposed to be coming out these past couple of months that have been pushed back into the new year, that have been delayed. So look forward to more future videos and keep checking back every month for these collected edition hauls here that I post for you guys. And hit that like button if you like what you saw here today and you enjoy these videos, or if you have any comments or things you kind of want me to add to the videos, that things that I can improve upon even, please, I appreciate your feedback, and thank you to everybody who's been checking these videos out. And stay tuned. There is some exciting announcements coming soon. Most likely in my next haul video that I'll be able to announce at that at that point in time for you guys. So look forward to that. And once again, I look forward to these monthly. I'm trying to bring these out in a more timely manner. By the time I get this out, it'll be the start of December. So as soon as November is finished, as soon as the month of the haul that I do want to put out there is finished, I want to get it out there as soon as possible for you guys. I'm going to try to continue to do that, hopefully within the first week or two of the month, after it's been completed, as long as I can kind of keep up with my reading and nothing else happens that would interfere with me putting them out at such an early date. Because I know there's been some videos that have come out late previous to this, right? So yeah, lots more always to look forward to. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, guys. All kinds of different videos and different types of things we talk about and discuss here on the Late Night Chat Networks. Of course, the weekly late night chat show, what I do with my buddies, a revolving group of co-hosts, along with my buddy, who's the co-host, JT, who created Late Night Chat Network with me. And basically at this point, we just have a bunch of videos here of different kind of spans across all of our runs the gamut of all our different interests here on the Late Night Chat Network. So definitely take a look at our playlist, all kinds of different things out here for you guys to take a look at. And thank you for tuning in as always. Okay, anyways, without further ado, let's get into the haul, shall we? All right, and first up, we got Amazing Spider-Man Epic Collection. This is Life Theft. This is during the David Michelini run on Amazing Spider-Man in the mid-90s. This is volume 26 of the Epic Collection. Yeah, collecting issues from 1993 to 94 period in time. This collects Amazing Spider-Man issues 381 to 393, annual 28. Spider-Man 45, Spectacular Spider-Man 211, Web of Spider-Man 112, and Amazing Spider-Man Ash Can Edition. So yeah, you got David Michelini on writing these. Also, Mark Bagley primarily as the artist on the Amazing Spider-Man main series in here. J.M. DeMatteis looks like he wrote some stuff in here, maybe in the annual or one of the other series that was going on at that time, probably. Maybe Spectacular at that period of time. So I haven't actually largely read a lot of this stuff, and I believe some of this stuff may not have been collected, at least in omnibus edition, because I know that they've collected the McFarlane stuff with David Michelini and the Larson stuff in omnibuses, which I also have owned and double dipped in these epic collections. But I don't believe they've collected a lot of the Bagley period at probably the tail end of David Michelini's stuff on Amazing Spider-Man during this period of time. So yeah, I haven't read a lot of these issues, if not any of them really, unless one of the covers kind of, catches my eye here that I recall from this period of time when I was younger. I don't think I've read any of these, so I can't speak to the quality of this period. I mean, the Mark Bagley art, his style hasn't really changed too much over the years. Yeah, I would say I do enjoy Mark Bagley's art. I think he's a perfect artist for Spider-Man. I definitely think he's of this time, and he kind of represents the character well. And I still think he's doing good work today. While he's not my most he's not the most stylistic artist, or like as a standout, I would say, like, one of my favorite artists by far. I do think he is a good artist, competent artist, and you know what I mean. Like he's drawn a hell of a lot of Spider-Man, so I think that he when I see Mark Bagley's art, it kind of fits in well with the character at this point, because I've read so many things and so many comics with his art during not only the 90s but even up to today. He just did the Spider-Man life story with Chip Zdarsky very recently, and I think he was a great artist to kind of span the different decades that they got representing that Spider-Man on that book and that title. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to checking this out for the first time. A lot of this stuff, Amazing Spider-Man is one of those characters I kind of want to collect all the stuff, even some of the bad periods. And when it comes to the epic collections, it is one of those lines I pick up every volume that ends up coming out, even if it double dips in some of my like omnibus related material for Amazing Spider-Man. So yeah, I'm happy to have this, and I'm looking forward to checking this out for the first time. And we'll see how it goes. All right. And then next up, we got Fantastic Four, This Flame, This Fury. Also, I forgot to mention, I'll be going over the books that I've never read first out of my haul here for November 2021. So we'll talk about the books that I haven't read, or, I've only read some of it. I'll be checking out for the first time that I have no opinions on in that sense, no reviews for you guys. And then we'll get into the books that I did haul throughout November 2021 that I have read, and that I have, quick reviews on for you guys. So yeah, here's This Flame, This Fury, Fantastic Four Epic Collection, another epic line where I buy most of them, not all of them. I've always heard good things, if you are a fan of the 90s, about the Tom DeFalco run. I haven't read any of the epic collections as of yet, but I have been picking up the ones where he is the main writer on them. And I believe they're only about maybe 2 volumes away from collecting all the Tom DeFalco period on the Fantastic Four. But I have also heard that this is the period of time where you get Boob Window kind of Sue as part of the Fantastic Four. That really is not a good period of time it is run. I think, again, this is farther into his run, maybe towards the end of it. And I heard it gets kind of really bad at this point in time. This is like peak 90s comics. I actually remember picking up some of these issues back in the day and reading them. There is a crossover issue in this. I believe that's like Acts of Vengeance or something like that. I'll probably come across it in a moment here. So yeah, as much as, you know what I mean, like I've wanted to pick up this run and read this, like looking through some of this material already previous to doing this video, I'm just like, I was like, it's kind of a bit groan inducing at points in time. The Boob Window kind of costume for Sue definitely hasn't aged well. I don't even think it was probably I'm sure maybe it was popular at the time with young kids, Sue is a very attractive looking woman, of course, but this is a comic book we're talking about. So, yeah, it's definitely not flattering. It doesn't hold up well, I think, for a woman to be walking around with the boob window of the four. Nonetheless, yeah, it's a really stupid looking costume. So yeah, but I'm happy to have this. I'm happy to kind of almost be completed my DeFalco run on Fantastic Four. I have heard good things about it, or it is kind of very throwbacky to the old style Fantastic Four. So I am interested to check this out at eventually. I'm waiting for all of those volumes to come out where he had written them, and then I'll kind of dive in eventually. So yeah, so this one is volume 22 in the epic line for Fantastic Four. 92 to 93 is the period that they are collecting, and this collects Fantastic Four 362 to 376, as well as annual 25 to 26 and Adventures of the Thing #3, which I've never even heard of that series, so that's interesting. But yeah, here, hold on, let me get to that. And yeah, this is written by DeFalco, art by there's some Paul Ryan and Herb Trimpe art in here, as well as George Perez. Larry Alexander, Kirk Jarvinen. I haven't heard of some of these people, but yeah, a bunch of different artists looks like pitched in here at this period of time. I'm interested to look at the George Perez art as well as, Herb Trimpe's a great artist as well. Paul Ryan. Yeah, so there's some decent art in here, I'm sure, during this period of time, but also probably some really bad art. Let's see here. Let's just take a quick flip through here. Yes, this is the issue I remember here with the evil Reed Richards. Let's see here. What is this? Infinity War crossover. So that's what it was. So I actually had this issue back in the day. At the time, I remember seeing the cover and being like, "What the fuck is going on?" Like evil Reed Richards choking the life out of this one, yelling "destroy." So I didn't really have many of the other Infinity War crossover or like event issues for that matter. So I'm sure I was pretty confused. But at the time you're younger. You kind of jump in. There was a pretty crazy scene, here where he attacks him that I recall. I actually remember that moment, so that's always stuck out to me. So it's interesting to kind of look back at these things, these epic collections, and see some stuff from this period of time where at the time you're probably scratching your head as well. And you look at it in here and you're just like still kind of a little confused as to what the hell's going on, right? Without the proper context. So it should be interesting to kind of revisit that. So 90s comics. So I'm happy to add this to the collection. And here I'm trying to get you a little close up of the costume here. You can check out this awful fucking costume. There we go. Yeah, close up of that. Yeah, of course, everybody needs a 4 boob window, just showing a bit of the breasts, of course, on this scandalous outfit that Sue basically says here. I hope you like it. I was starting to feel like an old frump in that tedious, outdated jumpsuit. So there you go. 90s kids. All right. Fantastic Four Epic Collection. And this is one that did not come out in November 2021, but I was happy to add to my collection finally. This is Thor, the God of Thunder. This is the first volume in the Thor Epic collections. This is the Lee and Kirby stuff. This is collects Journey into Mystery 83 to 109 because that eventually became the Thor ongoing series. Previous to him having one, and this is from 1962 to 1964. Now, I heard a lot of this shit, like this period of time of Thor is like hell to get through. Like I've collected the whole like Stan Lee period with a lot of the stuff that Jack Kirby had drawn with him, which is the first 5 volumes of the Epic collection. And this was the last one that I needed. This is very out of print, although it is in the recent solicits, and I believe it is reprinting in the new year, probably closer to the summer. Unless it gets pushed back due to, all the pushbacks as of lately. But I ended up finding it for a decent price, like cover price. So I scooped it up. And this is out of print and hard to find. But, if you guys are still having a hard time finding this, don't worry. A reprint is coming of it. And it's probably going to be thinner paper stock and probably just, better made because this is one of the earlier Epic collections. And a lot of these ones are a little bit more thicker. I find when they've been doing the reprints of the Epic collection, they've been getting a little bit thinner. So, again, happy to have this. And as long, even though I heard it's hard to get through some of the reading during this period of time, especially on Thor. I heard the first couple of epics aren't that great. Doesn't get interesting, I've heard, until maybe about the third epic in. I'll take the plunge. I'm gonna try to get through it regardless of some of the wording. The wordiness, I guess, of this period of time. So this looks kind of fun, and I'm happy to see the Kirby art as well. So yeah, I'm very happy to add this to the collection. I've got all the Stan Lee, like Jack Kirby kind of era of Thor. For I think it's the first 5 Epic collections. That's the Stan Lee stuff. So he's one of the characters that I did want this period of time of the character. I'm not into all the Golden Age stuff for all the different characters through Marvel because I know that it can get very wordy and tedious to kind of work your way through. But it is interesting to see where some of these characters have started. Where are some of the ideas that have made it all the way to the cinematic universe today that have held up these many years later basically came from, right? So, it's nice to have it on the shelf, that's for sure. So eventually I'll get to read it. All right, then we got this big bad boy. That's a fucking heavy one. Look at how thick this one is. This is the Justice League Dark New 52 omnibus, everybody. It is fucking massive. Now, because of my camera positioning here, if it's not clear how big it is, you'll see it actually when I post it on the actual photo for this haul. It is a big, big, thick book, very big omnibus. Probably one of their biggest to date, if not the biggest. Honestly, this is like 1,600 pages or something like that. So it is going to be a little bit hard to read this one, I think, as some people complain about the size of omnibuses. They don't like them for that fact. But, to have it all in one big book, it is kind of appealing to me. That is why I collect omnibuses. So it's not so often that we get a chance to read these things, and sometimes when we do, it is challenging, admittingly. But let's take a look what's in this book. I am happy to own this. I do love the Justice League Dark, at least the concept of it, and I've loved certain things that they've done with them. Since the New 52, the current run I believe is pretty good with Ram V. I've been enjoying that so far. So this collects Justice League Dark 0 to 40. That's the full series of the New 52 era. Justice League Dark Annual 1 to 2. Justice League Dark Future's End number 1. Constantine number 5 and 9 to 12. I Vampire 7 to 8. Justice League 22 to 23. Justice League of America 6 to 7. New 52 Free Comic Book Day Special Edition Trinity of Sin Pandora 1 to 3 and 6 to 9, and Trinity of Sin Phantom Stranger 11, 14 to 17, as well as an extensive behind the scenes gallery with never before seen artwork, along with brand new introduction by the writer who started all, Peter Milligan. So Peter Milligan wrote, I think, the first 12 issues of Justice League Dark, which kind of was, I think, the first time they actually had made all of these magical characters in the DCU, a Justice League team when they launched the New 52. I love all these characters. A lot of them come from Vertigo, and then they brought them into the New 52, kind of the DCU proper at that period in time. I know some people weren't a fan of it. I wasn't a fan of some of it, but I also did enjoy a lot of it. I did enjoy the Peter Milligan run. I think I had Ryan Sook on art here, and I did enjoy Jeff Lemire came on the book about, I think, issue 13 or something, or he came right after Peter Milligan. He jumped on the book, and I really liked his run. Now, I didn't read past that, and that's when I heard some of the quality goes downhill a bit, at least from the first couple of writers that ended up being on it. Jan DeMatteis, I believe, jumped on the book after that. That's when they did the Trinity of Sin kind of, I think, crossover between all the books and some of the other things that they did at that time within all of these kind of the Vertigo-esque magic kind of characters in the DCU at that time. Oh, sorry, this is Mikel Janin. That's right. This is early work by Mikel Janin. This is probably the first time I think I've ever seen his work, and then he went on to actually do stuff with Jeff Lemire on the title as well here. That's right. And then, of course, we've seen him do Batman and many other great things at DC now. I mean, he's definitely one of their, top tier artists, I would say, these days, Mikel Janin. So, so I'm excited to actually, so I've read about half the material in this omnibus. I'm interested to see the rest of it. Even so, I'm glad to have it, even if, it doesn't turn out to be all great. I do love the characters and the concept, and yeah, I'm a sucker for these characters. Like, that's basically the gist of it. So I was happy to own this and pick this up, and I'm looking forward to checking it out. Retail's about $150, guys. So it is kind of the more, it's like the most expensive omnibus that they have. They've put out a couple at this price point lately, DC, but they really are pushing the the envelope in terms of like how big they're making these things, right? Almost to the point where they're completely unwieldy. I have Vampire. Yeah, I love that series. Oh man. Yeah, that's Andrea Sorrentino was the artist on that, who also has gone on to work with Jeff Lemire, on so many other things through DC, and now their Image Comics work together. So yeah, I'm looking forward to checking this out. But yeah, it is a lot of bang for your buck, despite the expensive cover price of this omnibus. So Justice League Dark New 52 omnibus, check it out. And then we got the newest of the EC Archives paperback reprints that they've been putting out. This is volume 1 of The Haunt of Fear. This collects issues 15 to 17 and 4 to 6, which that's kind of an odd kind of way to put that out here. I don't know why they would put 4 to 6 first instead of issues 15 to 17, but I'm sure there is some sort of reasoning behind it. Like I said, they used to change the titles of these books back then. Maybe it was something else, and then they kind of flip-flopped back and forth, and then relaunched it, and then renamed it Haunt of Fear again. I'm not really positive on that. If you guys know, please let me know in the comments. Though you EC Archive fans, I know there's some people that like. I mean, I started reading the Tales of the Crypt one, and I'm sure I will enjoy. And I did enjoy it, what I've read so far, and I'm sure I'll enjoy these subsequent volumes that they've been coming out with. I mean, for $19.99 retail price, and the fact that they're reprinting these long out of print archive editions through Dark Horse, you can't beat it. Like this is great bang for your buck, and this is some of the best comics ever, from what I've been told and what I understand. But I don't think you should read them in big chunks, though. I'm sticking by the fact that you should just kind of, since the way it is split up in all sort of different tales being told like short stories, I'm just gonna kind of pick these up when I feel the need, like, you know, when I feel like reading one or two of the stories and then put it back down again. I don't think it should be consumed this way, where you kind of just binge the hell out of these stories. I don't think they'll be as effective in that sense. Well, the reading experience, right? Because they weren't made with that in mind. So I think you got to treat them that way as well. So while reading them. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to checking these out. And once again, I've talked about the other EC Archive paperback editions that have come out the last couple of months. Go back and check out my previous couple of months of hauls if you're interested in me talking about those ones. Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horror, I believe, is the other one. This is Haunt of Fear. So yeah, I've been steady picking these up. These are great. I love that Dark Horse is doing these. And last but not least, this is a book that I ended up getting very cheap. I passed on getting this originally. I never picked it up when it first came out because it seemed like everybody goes back and forth on the quality of this storyline, because of the fact that Phil Jimenez, primarily an artist, I guess, wrote this at that period in time. I don't know how much experience he had as a writer, but apparently this is overly wordy and not written very well, and just a fucking hell to get through, I've heard. So I passed on it originally because I've had heard that from a lot of people, but there is a lot of people that really love Phil Jimenez's run on this book. So it was kind of, you know, I heard mixed things, and it was not a reason for me to rush to get this when it originally came out, maybe a couple years ago now even. Anyways, I saw this really cheap, and I picked it up for a great price, and I flipped through it while I was considering to pick it up. And, you know, even without the great price tag, though, I mean, this is originally a $75 omnibus. So even there, it's a good deal. It's a pretty good size omnibus for that price. But the artwork in here, the Phil Jimenez artwork, and of course, he's influenced by the George Perez stuff on Wonder Woman and George Perez in general. But the amount of detail that he puts into his art in this book, though, made me pick it up right away. I mean, as soon as I saw it, because I had never really taken a look through it when it first got released. The artwork in here is just unreal. Like, Phil Jimenez is a great artist, but like, he killed it on his Wonder Woman run. Like, I was just like, you know what? If I start reading this and I don't dig the direction or the storytelling, or even like the writing, the exposition, you know, like his wordiness that I've heard about on this run. You know what? Adam Hughes covers on this during this period of time of Wonder Woman. I'm gonna try to look past it and try it out regardless, because this art is fantastic, and in an oversized omnibus edition, I mean, it just looks glorious. It's something, a sight to behold. If you're a fan of George Perez, or, you know, detailed art and clean line kind of art, and Phil Jimenez, you know, his style, definitely check this book out. And, you know, I've heard a lot of Wonder Woman fans do like this period of time on the book as well. It does have its fans, but I've also heard that there's a lot of people that don't like this period. So it's it's got mixed reviews, but I'm gonna try it out and see for myself if I dig it, because yeah, the art is great. Great stuff. All right, so now I'm getting into the books that I ended up hauling throughout the month of November 2021. and also read either previous, to picking them up, or actually read throughout the month of November 2021 for the first time. So I'll give you my quick reviews on these. This is Hell's Paradise, Jigo Kuraku, story and art by Yuji Kaku. This is printed by Viz Media. This is their signature line, the more mature kind of line of manga that they release. A little bit of oversized paperbacks as well compared to some other regular manga. It's a little shorter normally, like the shoujo or shonen jump kind of releases compared to the signature line. So that's always appreciated as well. So we're getting to the end. I believe the 13th volume of this is the last volume of this story. It has been completed in Japan for some time. Everybody's coming together, all the survivors of the island. The whole cast here kind of has come together now to take down these final creatures that, have one final showdown and battle and see kind of where they end up at the end of this. There's been a lot of people that have died, a lot of fatalities, and a lot of stuff that has occurred over the last few volumes. So it's all coming to a head, and I'm here for it. I've really enjoyed this, and I don't really have much more to say other than that. But I think by the time this series is done, I think if you haven't checked this out, even if you're new to manga, I think this is a really easy book to pick up and get into. Lots of action and interesting characters, and it's only going to be a 13-volume series, so it's not one of these daunting 90-something volume series like One Piece or something like that. But yeah, check it out if that sounds interesting to you. It is like a group of like samurais and ninjas and stuff like that stuck on a bizarre island of sorts, and it kind of just goes off from there, right? So Hell's Paradise, Jigo Kuraku. Check it out. All right, next up we got Friday book 1, the first day of Christmas. This is the digital first comic on Panel Syndicate, which is, I think, the company that Brian K. Vaughan started with Marcos Martin, who did The Private Eye, which was a comic book series that got a lot of attention when it came out years and years ago now. And since then, they've become a home for online digital comics that other creators, if they want to go and do comics on there, they can put it out. Their way of putting out comics, unless it's changed, has always been like, we offer it for whatever price you're willing to pay for it. So you can go on there and download or read the comics for free. Or you can, throw them a few bucks, whatever you think it's worth, what they're putting out. And I think that it has been a good model for them, apparently, from what I've heard. Like, there has been people that are still willing to pay for their comics online because they appreciate the work that these creators are putting out, as opposed to just people that are just jumping on there and downloading it for free. But again, they put it out there with the intent that they have that option. And usually what happens is they put this stuff out in physical format now, usually through Image Comics. So now, I don't know if that was just a deal with Private Eye originally, because I know the whole thing with Private Eye, the whole, idea behind the storyline, and putting stuff into the cloud and everything else. He kind of never wanted to make that be put into print, Brian K. Vaughan. But then I guess Robert Kirkman, apparently through Image Comics, had convinced him to do so. And the trade-off was that Robert Kirkman would allow Brian K. Vaughan to write an issue of The Walking Dead. So he wrote, I think it's called The Alien or something like that. He wrote like a Walking Dead issue, and then he was allowed to release The Private Eye as a result of that in print edition, because they knew it was going to be a big seller for them, which it was. It was a great book. But of course, this is Ed Brubaker and Marcos Martin on art, Munsa Vicente, I guess, on colors. And this is basically Ed Brubaker's answer to like Harriet the Spy or Encyclopedia Brown, like, which is basically these two kind of kid detectives. And, it kind of jumps around from some past scenes of them as kids when you learn about the characters. I will say, when you first jump into the book, they kind of just drop you in the middle of things. And it took a little while for me to kind of get used to the book and how it was written and where, who these characters were and where we were going in the storyline. But, once you get to about like the middle chapter, it does give you a flashback and provides you more answers as to who these people are and their history with one another. And yeah, by that point, I was loving it. I was totally in. But yeah, it definitely felt a little different to just be dropped into the middle of an ongoing story. It felt at the cold open at the start of this one. But yeah, I certainly really walked away loving this. I love Ed Brubaker. I mean, I love everything he does with Sean Phillips, all the crime noir type stuff. This definitely does still seem up his alley. And while I was reading this, I was like, you know what? This kind of reminds me of like, things like Harriet the Spy or Encyclopedia Brown or the Hardy Boys, things like of that ilk. And at the end of the book, Ed Brubaker basically does say this is essentially like his Harriet the Spy or Encyclopedia Brown. And those are books that he loved when he was younger, even to this day. So yeah, it is a young girl and boy who are friends and possibly want to become more than friends, but it doesn't really work out. This is them in the future after having all these adventures and solving all these cases and everything else, being involved in a really very real kind of situation in their lives that people are dropping dead from. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it for you guys to check out. It's, I think, a $14.99 book, retail. Yeah, it won, I believe, it collects Friday 1 to 3. You can also check these out online digitally if you'd want. It did win the Eisner Award for Best Digital Comic this past year, it looks like. And it was just wonderful. The Marcos Martin visuals, I do like his style. I really enjoyed this. I love Ed Brubaker's writing. And I can't say enough about this. I really, really enjoyed this. So if you're a fan of Brubaker or of crime or like, I guess, mystery detective stories, definitely check Friday out for published by Image Comics. All right, then we got Seven Secrets Volume 2. This is by Tom Taylor, art by Danielle Di Niculo. And this is done by Boom Studios, and this was like part of the big releases of like more like premiere writers from different big two kind of companies coming over to Boom to do work. I mean, we had Karen Gillan that did Once and Future, which has been a big success for them, as well as James Tinian on Something Is Killing the Children. This was part of that original like group of announcements of big creators going on books, doing their own creator-owned thing at Boom. And every one of those has been great. And I also really enjoy this. I don't know if this has been getting as much attention or love as those other two titles that I've mentioned, because those are just huge right now. But I have quite enjoyed this one as well. I'm a big fan of Tom Taylor. I've talked about him in my reviews here on the channel before. And I definitely I really enjoy this. This is basically it got the hints of manga. It's very manga-esque, at least with the action and the type of storytelling that's being told. It kind of does feel like a Shonen Jump like adventure. All kinds of different interesting characters. Even some of the art stylings, I would say. Like I heard someone describe it as that it's like a Shonen Jump manga, a teen type book, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I could see that. There's basically, Seven Secrets. It's a bunch of families, a bunch of people, people that are assigned, I guess, different secrets, and they have like different teams of people that are supposed to be protecting these secrets. And one of them was like a child who grew up, without even knowing who his parents were, and then he found out the people who trained him were his parents as part of this like secret cabal, like secretive group that exists in the world. But basically now at this point in time in the story, there's somebody who is trying to take down this group of people, these individuals that are tasked with protecting these biggest seven secrets in the world. And now in the second volume, there's been a lot of twists and turns and reveals that I wasn't really expecting. That's kept it interesting and kept the story moving so far. So I really enjoyed this. This is the second volume, and this is collecting issues 7 to 12 of the series. So I mean, if you like Tom Taylor, if you're looking for, like I said, like a Shonen Jump adventure-esque kind of thing that even a teenager can check out, it's not like super hardcore or adult or anything like that, but action-packed and fun. Definitely check out Seven Secrets Volume 2. And then we got Black Widow Volume 2, written by Kelly Thompson, art by De La Torre and Casa Grande. It's Rafael De La Torre on issues 6, 8 to 10, and Elena Casagrande penciled issues 7 to 10. It looks like, I guess, they flip back and forth between their art styles in a few of these issues, if I recall correctly. And I'm really enjoying the Kelly Thompson run of Black Widow. Of course, this one, Volume 2, collects issues 6 to 10. I wish they made these a little bit bigger. I know some of these trade paperbacks from Marvel, they'll, collects 6 issues. These have been only collecting 5 so far, so I don't know how long they expect this series to go on for. Maybe they're collecting it that way because she's only got a couple of volumes in her. I'm not really sure, but the first volume came out. It got a lot of buzz. I'm a huge fan of Kelly Thompson, as I've talked about on this channel before, of her dialogue and just like the way that she kind of throws a bunch of characters into her stories to interact with the main protagonists. She's always got a group of friends that she can turn to, as well as funny dialogue and just very endearing, kind of personable characters I find that she writes. So I really always enjoy her characterizations of people. And she's got me reading a lot of ones of female heroines, like she's writing Captain Marvel. She did Jessica Jones before. She did the Hawkeye and female Hawkeye book, and now of course that's got a TV show now, and yeah, Kate Bishop, sorry, that's her name. And now I am reading Black Widow by her. So I think she does a really great job. I think she's found her niche of, like, the type of tone that she brings to her titles, and I really, really enjoy. And this book is no different. I really enjoy the action and intrigue, and Black Widow as a character on the ongoing story was set up in the first 5 issues, the first volume of Black Widow, about her possibly having kids now, and a family, and a whole other life that she was, really enjoying, even though she was kind of brainwashed and deceived into living this life, essentially. So anyways, Black Widow continues to be good. Check it out. If you're a fan of Kelly Thompson, definitely pick up the first volume. Check that out. If you enjoy it, this is just really more of the same. And then we got Second Coming, Volume 2. Even though, yeah, it is Volume 2. It is numbered Volume 2. This book comes out in like a series of miniseries, essentially from Ahoy Comics. This is The Only Begotten Son, which is, I guess, like the second miniseries of Second Coming that they've come out with. Written by writer Mark Russell, art duties shared by Richard Pace, as well as Leonard Kirk and Andy Troy on color. This is a book about basically there's a Superman-esque character who basically meets the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So he comes back to Earth. It is a bunch of observations about him and like in today's time, commenting on the way people are, and a lot of social issues discussed and kind of examined, as Mark Russell is one to do. Of course, Mark Russell, famously kind of did that Flintstones book, which was nothing like the Flintstones, but basically, again, talked about a lot of social issues and interesting kind of topics through the lens of the Flintstones. And since then, he's definitely, again, found his style, I think, of writing. It's always interesting. It's always kind of examining different things and has interesting takes on different stuff. And I'm always here for it. I kind of will check out any book he kind of does at this point. And, but it's things like these publishers like Ahoy Comics that are going to be able to print books like this. Other things, some books like this wouldn't survive on the stands if it was coming out from even like a publisher like Image Comics, for instance. So if he has to go over to these publishers to write some of these interesting kind of books that you normally wouldn't get from a big two, then I'm here for it. So yeah, this is another great volume. I really enjoy this. I kind of may have liked this volume even more than the first one. It's hard to say. There's stuff that I love and then stuff that I just feels okay. But again, I do like his style of writing, and the art is good enough in this. It's nothing amazing, spectacular, but they kind of switch up the styles. Like this is the Richard Pace art here, and I believe then it gets into the Leonard Kirk stuff. I'm definitely more of a fan of the Leonard Kirk art, but I think the Richard Pace art works whenever they kind of do flashbacks to kind of his time previous to now, or like certain pivotal scenes where they match it up a little well. It's kind of a very different style, two styles that they throw together here, but they're both decent enough that I'm okay with it. So yeah, so Second Coming, Only Begotten Son. I do enjoy this series. Check it out if this sounds interesting to you. And one that wasn't on my radar originally that I came across, and I'm glad I did. This is a Better Place. I don't know if this came out in November. I think yes, actually yes. I think this came out the first month of November, but I didn't pick it up until like the end of November because I missed this when it first came out. But the name did catch my attention on this book, Sean Daly. Sean Daly is an artist that works in Toronto that I met at the Toronto shows, the conventions, who I've been following for a little while now. I definitely felt like his art style was reminiscent of Jeff Lemire, I would say. but he's definitely becoming his own, his own artist and has his own thing going on. I don't want you to think that I feel that he's ripping off his style or homaging it by any means. Yeah, but I definitely think like just some of the look of it, even some of his use of watercolors, which is kind of why I'm drawn to his art in particular. And this is an interesting story. This is a story about a kid and his grandpa who's like basically somebody who's not, acting his age. He just loves his grandson and, dresses up like a superhero with him, loves that he's got an active imagination and kind of feeds into that. And, the mother was a single mother that doesn't necessarily want him feeding into all of his wild imaginations because he thinks he can get himself into trouble or something will happen to him, and then he's getting older and maybe he's getting senile. So they're not, they're a little concerned about the relationship between her father and her son. Even though they like she loves spending time with him, and she's saying, what, Dad, you're starting to forget things and it's worrisome. I think we should put you in an old folks home. And he kind of doesn't really want to do that. And the son doesn't understand what's going on because he's very young and he really, so he's trying to play it off like there's no issues, nothing's happening. Anyways, he goes out one night to go check out this old folks home because he struck a deal now with the mother that he's going to be able to spend lots of time with her son, continue to do so only if he goes to an old folks home. So he's like, yeah, okay, you know what? I'm going to go check it out. Anyway, something happens to him on this ride to check out the retirement home. He gets into an accident and he dies. And hence the name Better Place. Basically, how some people say, oh, he's in a better place now. The son, she doesn't want to tell him exactly what has occurred. She just said, yeah, your grandfather's gone, and he doesn't understand because he's young, doesn't understand the concept of death at this point in time. And that phrase does come up about him being in a better place, and it kind of examines the other people around him in the kid's life, as well as the grief that he is going through, and he has to accept the fact that his grandfather is gone. So it was a really touching, heartwarming story with art I really enjoyed. Like I said, I'm a fan of Sean Daly. Of course, I did mention the writer, which is Dwayne Murray on here, and this is printed by Top Shelf Comic Books. I don't know if this came out originally in issues. I think this is an original graphic novel that was released. Maybe I'm wrong, but I was never aware of this, and I'm just happy and delighted to have picked it up and find out about it. And I'm really happy for the artist Sean Daly on this too, because he had a Kickstarter a couple years ago. He has a book called Terra Quill. If you've never checked that out, definitely check it out, guys. I'm a big fan of that as well. He has a collected paperback of all his web comics, or I guess self-published comics, Terra Quill, that he put out. And he ended up putting something out through Kickstarter years ago that I supported. And he's a nice guy, and I got some original art from him. But I think he did great work here. This is probably some of the best work I've seen him do so far, and I'm really happy that this came out. It also has got some pinups from some great artists in this. Jeff Lemire actually is in this. Farrell Dalrymple, Tyler Boss, Matt Kent, Jim Rugg, and Nate Powell did kind of like these. As he's going through it and he's reading his comics and stuff, they do pinups or different pages in their own styles, kind of incorporate into the story. Yeah, there's like a Farrell Dalrymple kind of cover to the comic book that he's reading here. But then it will kind of switch back to Sean Daly art on the next page. So just really cool how they've incorporated that. So A Better Place, it's called. Great book. All right, then we got Red Room, the Antisocial Network. This is, of course, shout out to Cartoonist Kayfabe, a great YouTube channel by comic creators Jim Rugg and Ed Piskor. I'm a big fan of Ed Piskor's art. This book is not for the squeamish, though. This is basically about those places called Red Rooms online where, the dark web, where there could be people that essentially doing like snuff film type shit where people are getting tortured and killed. It definitely is not for the light of heart. But if you are a fan of Ed Piskor's work, his artwork, I think it's worth checking out. Or if this is something that might be up your alley, something different and dark and kind of, like I said, pretty fucked up to read and or look at through the artwork. This is something Fantagraphics has just put out. They've been putting out the single issues, and then this is the first collection. I've double dipped on it. I'm a big fan of Ed Piskor's art. While it's not the most amazing thing I've ever read, I'm along for the ride. I do enjoy it enough. And if you've never checked out a Cartoonist Kayfabe YouTube channel, definitely check that out. Their creators talking about all things comics. And I don't even know what to show here out of this. It gets pretty brutal. And, even though I believe they've showed their stuff up on their YouTube channel, as you can see, they're just brutally murdering and decapitating and fucking people up in this book. So, yeah, definitely check this out if this is of any interest to you. Like I said, I do enjoy Ed Piskor's art. I am a fan of his work. So, if you're a fan of his stuff or you were checking it out for the first time, definitely look up Red Room online and or at least the comic book and see what this is about. This collects the first 4 issues of this. All right, then we got some more manga. We got Junji Ito's Cat Diary, Yon and Mu. This is the collector's edition. Of course, huge fan of Junji Ito. I pick up everything he does. I did originally have this is from Kodansha Comics. There's a couple of his comics that are actually printed by Kodansha and not Viz Media, believe it or not. So they previously had put this out in a smaller trade paperback, but they recently recollected it in an oversized hardcover. The actual cover of it is glow in the dark. It's very cool. The eyes light up, and yeah, this is about through the Junji Ito lens, essentially trying to show you how scary cats can be, or just being in the home with cats if you're not a cat person per se, and he definitely, focuses on some of the weirdness that cats can bring if you do own one, or some of the weird shit they can do, or at least the way that he envisioned them being horrifying, and his outlook on this true story actually about him. He is a character in this story, and he's kind of depicting some moments about cats that him and his wife had in his home. And yeah, the Yon and Mu are the name of the cats. And he said that one of the patterns on one of the cats looked like a ghost or something. So yeah, very interesting. If you're a cat lover, cat owner like myself, or a fan of Junji Ito, I definitely suggest checking this out. Even if you've never checked out Junji Ito stuff, but like I said, you're a cat owner or you like cats, this was very amusing and fun and great artwork. And yeah, I'm proud. I'm happy to have this hardcover, this newly released collector's edition on the shelf. All right, then we got Blade of the Immortal Deluxe Edition Volume 4 by Hiroki Samura. Dark Horse continues to pump out these very nice deluxe edition hardcovers of Berserk and Blade of the Immortal. I'm reading these Blade of the Immortals for the first time. Another great volume in this one. You get a lot of action and a lot of shit happen to the main characters in this one. And it really moved the story along. Well, the first volume didn't. This being volume 4, I believe this collects volumes 10 to 12 of the manga in this one. They collect about 3 volumes each. So when it's all said and done, I think this is going to be maybe 12 volumes, maybe 10 volumes, because I think there's about 20 something volumes. So you do the math. So that's 15 for 5. Oh, yeah. So maybe, I don't know if it's been up to 30. So yeah, it might come under. No, the omnibus paperbacks are about 10 or at least. Yeah, so it's going to be at least 10 volumes of these hardcovers. So this is a nice presentation. I do enjoy them. The art is fantastic. I love reading it in this format. It is left to right. You're not reading right to left. So if you were somebody that doesn't like the right to left reading of manga, this one was, for whatever reason, when Dark Horse collected it, they took their time to actually flip this in a left to right reading format for the American audience, I guess. They released a bunch of these in issues back in the day, and it was a conscious effort and choice on their part. They explain in, I think, one of the forwards or maybe the first volume why they've done that and why they decided to do that even in their original printings of this book. But yeah, this is a classic for a reason. I've heard lots of people talk about how great this book is. The art is just fantastic. My favorite part about the book. But yeah, it's definitely a good, if you like samurai or that kind of stuff, definitely check this out. I can't recommend it enough. I love every volume of this that comes out, and I'm looking forward to the next one. All right, then we got the other one I mentioned. They keep continuing to churn out. Unfortunately, although the creator Kentaro Miura had died, I think a year or so ago now, there is going to be an end in sight for it. And, we're almost there. I think this is volume 9. So again, if it's collecting 3 at a time. I believe this one is up in the volume 20s at this point. I think it ended on volume 38 or 39, 25. So this is 25 to 27 that this volume collects. So I think we're going to end probably on volume 12 of this, if I'm not mistaken, of Berserk, 12 or 13. So we are going to get a everything that has originally come out in the smaller trade paperbacks manga of Berserk will come out in this edition. Rest assured, I haven't heard otherwise. So although the story might end all suddenly because the artist, creator, and writer of this, of course, died, I'm happy to have every volume still. The artwork and the story is so great. And it's a real shame that he passed away, but I'm happy to own it in this format. Again, just a very nicely done format, and for the price point, these are $50 retail that Dark Horse releases these in. Even if you were to buy the smaller paperbacks, you're paying about the same. So if you can find them in print, but these hardcovers, these are beautiful looking hardcovers, a great oversized artwork that's deserving of this format. I mean, Berserk is really dark and fucked up at times, and some crazy shit goes down. He fights a bunch of fucked up looking ugly trolls in this one, so who just do disgusting things. I'm not even gonna get into it here for you, but yeah, there's again, not for the squeamish this stuff. It is very mature content stuff. There's sex and nudity and messed up things like rape and horrible shit that happens to the characters in this title, but it is definitely a dark fantasy story being told in this, and it's definitely leaning way more into the fantasy stuff than the medieval kind of fighting stuff now, in these more in these volumes now in the book, compared to previously. So great stuff happening in the story thus far. I can't really spoil Berserk. I'm sorry. Check it out, guys. It's great. I just don't want to spoil it for you guys if you haven't checked it out yet. All right, then we got this release, which is very interesting. This is Tukey by Jeff Smith. That's right, Jeff Smith of Bone. This is his first release in forever. I believe I had heard that he previously, I don't know if it was digital first, maybe online he was putting it out, or there was an earlier version of this story that he basically scrapped and reworked. And there is some of the pages in here that I guess were from the previous version that he had. But a lot of the material in here is new for the first time. This is supposed to be 5 volumes, all said and done. But of course, I'm going to check this out because it's from a creator that does creator-owned comics, indie black and white stuff that doesn't do much of it, right? He came out with the last thing that I remember he came out with was Razzle, which is like, I don't know, like 10 years ago or something like that now, I would say. It's been a long, long time. And of course, the thing that he's most well known for is Bone. So I got this just based off of the creator's merits, really. This was okay. I mean, it's basically like caveman times. Like they're telling, 2 million BCE. So like there's history involved in here, or at least in the sense that this is things that we felt where this is the way people were living at this point in time. And there is research that he apparently put into this. And this is like a book that is not your normal formatting the way it is, right? So it is, the artwork is across like this, not up like like a regular size book like this one. So it is a paperback. I believe they kickstarted the first 2, which may have been released in hardcover. And like I said, it's going to be 5 volumes. Here, as much as the story was just fine for me, like I didn't think it was amazing and I wasn't hooked, but I am going to continue reading it. The cartooning, though, guys, if you're a fan of Jeff Smith, I mean, this is great stuff. It's the cartooning is what I'm here for. Look at this, like the artwork, his art style. So I'll continue to read this just for that. So yeah, that's all I'll say on this. It was a quick read as well. Yeah. But if you're a fan of Jeff Smith, this is his next thing. Pick it up, guys. I'm sure this is going to be a big hit for him as well. And then we got Witchfinder. This is Witchfinder Omnibus Volume 2 from Dark Horse Comics. Written, or I guess plotted mostly by Mike Mignola. Stories by Mike Mignola and Chris Robertson. Art by Ben Stenbeck, Disarelli, and Christopher Midden. So these are 3 different miniseries, as they tend to do in the Mignola verse, with all the Hellboy stuff and all the kind of other books that he does that are probably based in the same universe on different people. This is on Sir Edward Grey, the Witchfinder, which was the character in Hellboy. Basically, I believe, started the BPRD, or that was part of that. And in this, you basically follow, I guess, his travels and kind of weird happenings that happened in his life and kind of cases that he took on, and seeing kind of his adventures, and hence, the Witchfinder aspect of it. Or if he wasn't the guy that started the BPRD, maybe I'm confusing it with somebody else. He's definitely involved in it. He's part of the Hellboy universe. But I'm kind of blanking on it at the moment. There's just so many different Hellboy stuff that and characters that's gone on. I gotta say, the only one I wasn't a huge fan of the art was the Disarelli one. I don't even know if that's how you say the artist's name. I've seen his work before, but I'm not a huge fan of his. I like Ben Stenbeck. He's very good. And Christopher Midden, who drew the last story in this, is very good as well. So yeah, this collects City of the Dead, The Gates of Heaven, The Reign of Darkness, and The Great Blizzard. So yeah, whichever one was the Disarelli one, it may have been this Reign of Darkness. Well, on that one, I wasn't a huge fan of the artwork, but the story was good. But yeah, this is his art style here. I'm not a huge fan of his style. It's okay, very cartoony. I'm just not a fan of his compared to the other one. Christopher Midden's great. So is Ben Stenbeck, who actually I think worked on the Baltimore books primarily. So yeah, if you're a fan of the Hellboy verse, the Mignola verse, this is going to be right up your alley. And I love how they put out these hardcover omnibus editions of this. And I really quite enjoyed this. And like I said, if you're already dialed into the Mignola verse stuff or any of the Hellboy books, it's definitely worth your time and worth checking out. All right, so now we're getting into the final few books of the haul here. Some fantastic hardcover collected editions that I picked up this month. First up, we got Something is Killing the Children, the deluxe edition. It's not the deluxe edition slipcase, guys. I know like some of you guys are rushing out to buy that one. I was okay with just the regular deluxe edition hardcover. There is an edition, guys, that does have a very nice looking slipcase for this one and the next release I'm about to show you. But yeah, this is from Boom Studios. Read this in trade originally, and then I was like, you know what? Once I heard they announced a hardcover, I'm going to stop reading it in trade and just pick up these beautiful looking hardcovers I'm sure they're going to put out. This is probably their best selling book, I would say, at this time, by James Tynion the fifth, and definitely, he's one of the bigger writers in comics currently out right now for his creator-owned stuff. Just left DC Big 2 recently to do a Substack thing of subscription comics, as well as doing his creator-owned work through different publishers. And Something is Killing the Children has been a huge, huge hit for Boom and James. So, and it's a great book, well deserved. I really like it. The artwork is by, the artist's name, Werther Della Dera. I'm not a huge fan of the art. I don't dislike it. I think it fits the story well. I think, the artist is decent, but it's not my favorite art. It looks great in some instances, and in other instances, there's certain things I don't think that the artist does a great job of depicting. But that being said, it is a great, great story about a kid who basically reports that his friends all got killed by a monster. Turns out it actually happened. Monsters are real. There's a monster hunter, kind of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer-esque type thing. A mysterious girl shows up to this small town to investigate the murders of these children due to this monster that's apparently roaming around. And, all shit hits the fan there on out. I don't want to spoil much more other than that basic setup, but I will say it is worth your time. It is worth checking out, and it does deserve a lot of the hype that it is getting right now, because it is a very good book. So Something is Killing the Children. You got the deluxe edition hardcover out right now that collects the first 15 issues. They just had a spinoff. They introduced the House of Slaughter. This is Erica Slaughter. She's from the House of Slaughter, as part of this organization that hunts down the monsters. And I'm sure this spinoff is going to be popular as well. And hopefully they collect it into future hardcover editions of this series. And there's a slipcase edition reprints coming out in the new year. So check it out, everybody. Something is Killing the Children. And the other big book from Boom that I previously had mentioned that also has a beautiful slipcase edition, even nicer, I think, than Something is Killing the Children, is Once and Future. This is deluxe edition, book 1. I didn't get the slipcase for this either, guys. But again, This is basically the book that you get without the slipcase, but the slipcase is something to behold. So definitely check that out online, guys, if that is of interest to you. I cheaped out a little bit on these, but these are beautiful looking oversized hardcovers. Even without that, guys, I gotta say these are very nice. Kieran Gillen. This is done by Boom Studios, and the fantastic Dan Mora on art, who is just fan-fucking-tastic, man. Like he's doing this, and he's still doing Detective over at DC Comics. I don't know how the hell he's doing it. This also, I think, collects the first 18 issues, I want to say, of this series. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, 1 to 18. And I'm gonna be collecting this. Same thing. I was reading this in trade, but this series getting so much acclaim, I was like, you know what? Once they announce the hardcover, I'm just gonna read it this way. So Dan Mora, fantastic artist. This is basically like an Arthurian legend type story. If you're into that kind of trope, it's been done a lot. I understand that. But it's definitely one of the better things I think Kieran Gillen has written in some time. I'm totally on board with it. I love the characters and the story being told, and how this guy's apparently related to some of the Arthurian legend type stuff, and his mother knows about everything and is involved deep in it, and she's an old lady in this, and all of a sudden all this crazy shit starts happening that kind of throws his life into an upheaval of sorts. So yeah, I really quite enjoy this book. If the story you're not too sure on it, I mean, look at these visuals. Dan Mora, what a great artist. So again, this is their other big book that Boom has been putting out. Has gotten a lot of acclaim as of lately, well deserved, and is a great title that I look forward to reading. Although now it sucks, I'm gonna have to wait till the next hardcover comes out because I'm reading it in this format. That's okay, man. These are nice hardcovers, beautiful looking hardcovers. All right. And then we got Baby Teeth Year One hardcover, Donny Cates, artist Gary Brown. Now, I previously was collecting this in paperbacks. I traded up. This didn't come out in November 2021. This maybe came out a year or so ago. This hardcover that they've collected Aftershock Comics after the paperbacks came out. Donny Cates making a big name for himself over at Marvel Comics nowadays. So I got rid of my paperbacks. The series has just ended. The fourth paperback has come out now, or is about to come out, and that'll be the last volume of the series. And it's yet to be announced, but then they will probably collect the second hardcover that will collect the last part of the series. So the series has already concluded, but I liked it enough to actually go out and pick up the hardcover and trade in my my paperbacks for this option. Definitely one of the better Aftershock titles I've read. If you like Donny Cates, definitely check this out. It's about like basically the Antichrist. Yeah, very cool, very interesting. If you're touchy on religion though, maybe don't check it out. But it is full of like a lot of crazy, funny shit that's going on, and I have a lot of fun with this book whenever I've read it and the paperbacks that were coming out prior to picking up the hardcover. So it's not a new release. It's been out there, but I did trade up for the hardcover deluxe edition. Very nice, Baby Teeth. And lastly, we got a couple of Omnis this month. Couldn't leave you guys without the Omnis. Come on now. Actually, no, I did show off a couple already earlier of ones I hadn't read, but these are stuff that I have read. I have read the material that's collected in these omnibus. And there we go. We got the Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo omnibus volume 2 of Batman. Finally, long awaited omnibus. I know there's a lot of people out there who are probably really happy about this release. And I'm one of them. I read this in single issues when this came out from the New 52, probably the most popular New 52 series that came out at that time. What made people a big fan of Scott Snyder is because of this run at that time and the resurgence of Greg Capullo, even though he was always around over in Spawn Land. Oh, there you go. You even got Sean Murphy on art in this particular issue. So this omnibus collects. Let's take a look here. The second half of Snyder's run, which is Batman 34 to 52, Batman Annual 3 to 4, Batman Future's End number 1, DC Sneak Peek, Batman number 1, Batman Last Night on Earth 1 to 3, and stories from Detective Comics 27 and Detective Comics 1000. So there you go. That'll conclude the Snyder Batman stuff. The only stuff that they haven't collected in these omnibuses is an All-Star Batman stuff. But I guess because he did that with a bunch of different artists, and maybe it's outside of the story he was telling in his main series, they have yet to collect it in like a more deluxe format as of yet. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, Great artist in this. Great Craig Capullo art. The second part of the run, maybe not as well received as the first, and I gotta agree, it's definitely Kelly Jones on this one. Not as great as the first half of the run, but there is still some great moments and great art. And it's not a bad run. I wouldn't say it's bad by any means, but there is definitely some moments where it's not at its best, I think, compared to the first half of the stuff. But that also contained the Court of Owl storyline, so it's hard to kind of follow up that. Did he stick the landing on this series though? Again, New 52 stuff, so. But I do feel that the Last Night on Earth miniseries that they just came out with recently, that is also collected in this, was a hell of a lot of fun. Kind of the future, kind of set in the future storyline of Batman and the Joker, and I did quite enjoy that. So, so there you go. This is Batman Volume 2 of the Omnibus, Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo, $125 retail. Check it out. And last but not least, we got the Super Sons Omnibus, the expanded edition. Peter Tomasi and George Jimenez on art. Patrick Gleason, Carlo Barberi, fantastic artists throughout. And I was a big fan of this run. I actually had the original Omnibus that came out previous to picking this one up. I sold the other one. And this expanded edition has the additional 12-issue mini series, I believe, Adventures of Super Sons, that was not collected in the first Omnibus, because I guess they weren't sure if they were going to do more at that time. So this is a little bit fatter than the original Super Sons Omnibus. This collects Super Sons 1-16, Super Sons Annual #1, Super Sons Dynamite #1, Superman 10-11 and 37-38, Teen Titans 15, Adventures of the Super Sons 1-12. That's definitely new compared to the last edition. And Robin 80th Anniversary 100-page Super Spectacular #1. All right, well, that's going to do it, everybody. Thank you for tuning in once again to Niko's Comic Book Hauls and Reviews on the Late Night Chat Network. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I'll be putting these out monthly, whenever the month is done, as soon as I can, to go over these reviews and hauls with you guys. Please leave a comment if you like what you saw here today. If you have any suggestions for the show, anything you want to let me know, please do so. And hit that thumbs up button. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Everybody who's checked these out thus far, or any of the other content that we do here on the Late Night Chat Network. Please make sure to check out some of the other things that we do here, me and my fellow co-hosts, where we kind of do all these different shows on all different various topics of interest of ours, and as well as the weekly Late Night Chat show. I also want to give a special shout out to a new show that we just launched that I forgot to mention at the top of the show, is that the fact that we put out a show that is talking about weekly comic book single issue releases. So that is called Comic Shop Talk. I'm doing that with my buddy Chris. He is my co-host on that show. We just started this past week. We're going to be putting those out weekly for you guys, and that'll be us discussing not collected edition comics like the hardcovers and paperbacks and everything else I talk about here, but actually some of the new weekly single issue comic releases that come out week to week that we are reading. So I actually do still keep up with some of the monthlies in single issue format. Not as much as I used to, probably years ago. I've cut back a lot. As you can see, I read a lot of collected comic book editions instead nowadays. But there is a lot of things that I do still read in single issues, as well as my buddy Chris now that recently got back into the hobby. So if you want to hear two comic book fans talk about single issue release comics, maybe even things you may want to know about now, so you know whether or not to pick up the collected editions when they do come out, where I do talk about them on this channel and give reviews at that time. If you want to know about this stuff in advance, and or if you read single issue comic books as well, come through, check that show out. That's Comic Shop Talk. That is also here on the Late Night Chat Network. It's going to be a weekly show. I do it with my co-host Chris, so definitely check that out as well if that's of any interest to you guys. So thank you once again for checking this show out, and we'll see you guys next time. Later, guys.